When a Missouri dairy farmer headed out to milk his cows, he made a shocking discovery. More than 30 of his herd were laying on the ground dead. But what had killed them? Misty and Jared Blackwelder own an organic dairy farm near the city of Kabul in Missouri. The couple had worked hard to rear their herd, which consisted of 150 cows. Jared's father, who had raised beef cattle, had inspired the couple to get into farming. So in 2007, Jared and Misty decided to go it alone and establish their very own dairy farm. The couple sell their produce through the Organic Valley Co-op, while people can also purchase the organic milk from a few select stores in Springfield, Missouri. So 10 years after setting up their farm, the Blackwelders were doing just fine. The weather in Missouri can be quite unpredictable. Storms are not an uncommon occurrence. As a result, the Blackwelders' herd was a hardened bunch when it came to living among the elements. And whatever weather the cows were experiencing, Misty and Jared were exposed to it too. Twice a day they milked their herd outside. But although the life was sometimes hard, they enjoyed working with their animals. So on the morning of April 29th, Jared rose early to get ahead with his work. He began milking his herd at around 4 a.m. and it finished by the time the sun had risen. But then disaster struck. Jared had been returning to the barn when he saw an almighty flash. It was a huge lightning bolt. The farmer could tell it had struck close by due to the sheer force he felt from the impact. "It was so bright I couldn't hardly see," he told the Springfield News leader. "It just brought fire down the fences." Naturally, Jared immediately returned to Misty and the safety of their home. It wasn't until later that day that he re-emerged to assess any possible damages to his farm. He headed down to where his herd had been grazing, and that's when he stumbled on the most horrific sight. Jared had been planning to milk his cows again, but he found 32 of them lying on the ground dead. Later, a veterinarian would confirm that they'd been killed by the massive lightning strike. Although lethal lightning strikes are not uncommon, even the vet was astonished by the scale of the carnage. He'd been in the business for a number of years. However, up until that point, the most animals he'd seen killed by a single strike was 6. "I went down over the hill and seen them laying there," an emotional Blackwelder said of the heartbreaking sight. "They were just piled on top of each other. They were huddled up trying to get out of the rain." And although he tried to remain pragmatic about what had happened, he couldn't help but get emotional about his loss. "It's not like they're pets, but the ones I'm milking, I've raised every one of them," Jared said. "Dairy cattle are a little different because you mess with them twice a day. It knocks you hard." In one blow, Jared had lost a good chunk of his herd. Furthermore, in financial terms, he estimated the loss was around $60,000. Everything he and Misty had worked so hard for now seemed to be coming undone. To make matters worse, Jared said he didn't know if his insurance would cover his loss. Because his cows were organic, they were worth twice as much as regular cattle. As a result, the farmer didn't want to bury the dead cows until an insurance representative could verify them. When he could eventually lay them to rest, Jared would have to get a digger to bury them. "When they get hit by lightning, you can't use them for meat," he explained. "It blows them up from the inside." Jared had the support of the Wright County, Missouri Farm Bureau. As a result, the organization took to Facebook to share a devastating post about the fallen cattle. Soon, more than 14,000 people had shared the shocking images. Furthermore, Jared received well wishes from all over the globe. "Sending prayers from over the pond in Scotland," read one such comment. "Regardless of what the cattle were used for, they're not only someone's livelihood, they were living beings. I truly hope you recover from this." Despite everything that had happened, Jared somehow managed to look on the bright side of life. He's thankful the strike didn't claim more of his cattle, and now he's determined to rebuild his herd so that it's stronger than ever.